Alright guys, welcome to another post-analysis video for the Winter League. So I'm Ink, if you guys didn't know, I do these videos. This video isn't going to be as detailed as the previous one. I'm just going to quickly go over all the points for each half of each map that was played between Global versus RokaHeat and Celsia versus FirePizza. Again, I will be looking at my notes a little bit on the screen. Because I have written down quite a bit. Can't keep it all in my head just yet. We'll try better for the grand finals, but we're not there yet. So let me look at what everything I have written down. We're going to start with Global versus RokaHeat first. So again, it went to 5 maps. This is the map where RokaHeat was just 2 rounds away from knocking Global out and actually winning 3-1, which would have been absolutely crazy. But Global, or RokaHeat at least I should say, couldn't close it out, couldn't secure it. So then Global, came back and won the series. So let's talk about this. So India was the first map that was played. On this map, RokaHeat got absolutely destroyed. And just key pointers for that is just, Taz, Delcor were scoping amazingly well. Kempa, Syphas were holding down that one site. So let's talk about it. RokaHeat, first round, second round, sort of the third round, they went to one site, and every time they went to one site, I don't know if they threw the smoke down or if the other team threw the smoke, but Kimpa Syphas would just demolish them through the smoke, and there was no chance for RokaHeat to actually get into the site and be successful. The second or third round, they dig into the site, they lost a player, they killed Epi, and that just fell apart because Delcor was sitting in the spawn and just destroyed them. So bad execution, bad entry into the one site itself kind of screwed RokaHeat over there. And then from there, RokaHeat tried to go mid. They tried to work spiral, and that was good. They tried to change it up, but they just kept doing that stuff like 2-3 too many times. And the other key thing is that Taz, Delcor, they were called out by their team to play spawn, play into, play a little bit more aggressive, clear stairs, so now we can play mid. RokaHeat wasn't on top of that stuff at all, playing off of how the defense team was playing. So that when they went to mid, and they went to mid again and again, Taz and Delcor were there just to rip them apart. If they went to backyard, they got ripped apart by whatever crazy scope or appointment strat or rifle strat they were running, that Global was running over there. So really, RokaHeat, they had their entries weren't that great, just because it's India defense. So how good can it really be? But from there, RokaHeat, their strats were go here, and then that was it. If they didn't get kills, then the round was over. If they didn't succeed, the round was lost. They didn't go here, get information, and then try to execute. It was go here, get picks, commit too much, and Global was able to capitalize on that quite a bit. And maybe RokaHeat, if they had tried to play a little bit differently, they could have had more depth to the strats. Like, they could have been like, oh, we can actually rotate here. But they never got to that point because they just died. Most 2-on-3s went to Global. RokaHeat couldn't outfrag those. Couldn't win those scenarios frequently. Wicked was 3-8. Captives was like 2-9. So, I don't know, in my pre-analysis, I said Wicked had to top frag. He didn't do that here. They got demolished. And that's pretty much how all of India went. The second half really doesn't mean anything. It was so fast. So let's look at Hammer Blow, which I think is a very interesting map to paint a picture for how weak Global is on this map, but we'll talk about that soon. So at 4-1, Taz had 0 and 5 kills, and Delcor was 1 and 5. And remember, Global was on offense here. So I said before, Global's offense on Hammer it was never good on Andromeda, it was never good on Global in 2015. Not surprising that they couldn't perform here as well. Roka's defense wasn't that great. There's a lot of holes that Global could have found out about if they played for information. But Global was playing a little too slow and giving up too much map control on offense, which is a really tricky balance in itself, but it did happen. So without Taz and Delcor, having frags, there was no impact on EU from these scopes. So you're forced to have these 3 rifles, 1-point man, 2-point man, whatever Kimpa and Epi are playing, to actually get the picks and do well. But it's hammer blow and you're on offense, so where are you going to get picks as a rifleman where a scope isn't going to have the better advantage, where a rifle isn't going to have better advantage? If you're a rifle peeking on one door on one side of hammer blow, the defensive rifle has so many different angles, has so much more cover, and can easily back off. All you can do is, like, slowly hide behind the wall, but then you can still get wall banged. Same thing at the alleyway of one site, same thing at double doors, you should get wall banged through it. You have like 5 different angles to check. And then if you go through warehouse, you have forklift, you have up and forklift as well that you have to check. So where are these point men or riflemen going to get picks from? It's going to be really rough. So most chances are not that they're going to get kills there. Let's see, what else do I have? Global, they did win their 3 rounds though, due to Cyphers and Epi, so clearly because of their rifles. By winning 2 on 3s, they were like the last 2 players alive, or Kimpo was alive or something like that. Epi was always kind of part of the crew there, same with Cyphers. So they won those 2 on 3s a lot, kind of those 3 on 4s as well. And that's kind of where RokaHeat kind of fell apart in the rounds that they lost, is without the numbers advantage, their weaknesses kind of showed a little bit more. Kind of like a minor thing of how Celsia played against FirePizza. With Celsia, it was much more enhanced there. But yeah, for RokaHeat, that was definitely hold true. If RokaHeat could maintain 5, they were going to win that round. If they could get that first pick, Global wasn't going to be able to come back into the round. That's just kind of the map Hammer Blow is. So Global played, let's see how else. Yeah, so Global played solo. Were outframed by RokaHeat at 6-3. Taz was 1-8. Kimpo was 2-8. Epi wasn't having any impact for the first like 7 out of 9 rounds. The other 2 were directly because he won those rounds for his team. He started to perform a little bit too late. He started getting consistent frags per round. But when you're already losing like 5-2, or 5-3, it doesn't matter. So yeah, 6-3 is how that first half went. The second half, though, was much closer. Definitely just because Global, they are so weak on offense that when they get onto defense, they're naturally stronger on defense. Defense is naturally the easier side, and the angles play into their dual scope style a lot better on defense. But the thing is, why it was so close and wasn't a stomp is because RokaHeat, they're actually pretty decent on offense. Like, they went super aggressive or well coordinated into their site 1 takes. I think they went site 1 like 3 times. The first 2 times, Global tried to play inside of the site differently. The third time, they played outside of the site and it just fell apart every single time for them. So, Global tried a lot of different layouts. It just didn't work out for them. There was something at 52 minutes and 30 seconds. I don't know if it was a fail nade, but go watch the VOD and laugh at it, guys. But yeah, Kimpo was doing an amazing job. The scopes had much better fragging potential. Yeah. So that's pretty much how the second half went. RokaHeat, they knew how to go super aggressive. Global, much stronger on RF, not surprising at all. But I do think this Hammerville map pointed a picture that Global's defense isn't as strong as it could be, or as it should be. So I think they're weak on defense and offense on this map, which is surprising considering their past results as well. But yeah, let's talk about fox hunting. So Global was on RF in the first half. This was the X Factor map that I talked about, and it definitely proved to be an X Factor map, as in the first half here, RokaHeat, they were winning a lot of rounds on offense, and that's something that we saw. What we saw from both of the teams is like this 6-3-5-4 kind of like offense keeping it close 4-5. Which is what RokaHeat did. I mean, even though they lost by 1 round, they kept it close 4-5, which is really good when you're on fox hunting offense, which makes you question how good the defense of Global was there as well. I don't know, but it was standard fox hunting play from both the teams. Well, at least from the defensive team. RokaHeat did quite a few, like, RokaHeat was really well coordinated, and they were so coordinated, even though it was standard play, it was so coordinated that it kind of outplayed the team play and the rotations and the timings from the defensive team. yeah, so it all came down to like minor outplays each round. So if one team made more of an outplay or made a mistake, then the other team was just going to win. They weren't big mistakes; they were just minor, like not checking the right corner, being half a second too slow to cover your partner when you're pushing into a site, not choosing to nade or to smoke an alleyway, or just smoking off a little bit and then leaving a little bit of an angle. That's kind of how those rounds went. So it was very close, but still very close for 4-5 for the offensive side. So that was 4-5, I believe. So second half, RokaHeat, they won 6-3 here, which completely blew everyone away. To me, it wasn't that big of a surprise. It was still an upset for sure, but it was definitely the map where they could definitely pull something off like that. So first few rounds, RokaHeat was trying to be aggressive and adjust to Global's tricks and playstyle. You know, it was working, but Global, they couldn't keep their variety up. They had different variations of how they take one, go two, mansion, stuff like that. The other thing is that RokaHeat was also being very aggressive, putting two guys on the stairs, putting two or one guy in the mansion, and the guys at stairs and the guys at mansion would constantly die. So then it was like 4 or 3-on-5, 3-on-4, something to that effect for Global's advantage, and Global was able to take those first few rounds there on offense. But from there, RokaHeat, they adjusted. They decided to play more passively. I don't know if someone was watching the stream. They came into their Mumble or TeamSpeak or something. It was like, you guys need to play more passively. But it just looked like that's what happened. Because RokaHeat, they played inside of Red House. They played on the one site. They didn't push out anymore. And Global, they ran out of tricks. They didn't have any more variety left. And then it just slowly went down the typical fox hunting defense is much easier to play on. And yeah, and pretty much that's just the end of the story. There wasn't anything amazing from any of the scopes, any of the rifles, no great playstyles, just standard play. Everyone fulfilling their role, and that took us from like a 3-3 scoreline to a 6-3 victory for RokaHeat. So now it got interesting because it was 1-1, and guaranteed fourth map is going to happen now. And now Airplane is next, and Airplane's an interesting map because, like, Global, are they going to be good on this map because of dual scopes? I don't know, but Global, one map. Wait, 1 minute. Oh yeah, sorry, this is fourth map. That's what I meant to say. So yeah, with RokaHeat being up 2 maps, they were 1 map away from being eliminated. So Airplane, this is this is very stressful for Global. Can their dual scopes work well on offense and defense? Can they, perform against Wicked and the rest of the crew when they're on offense and RokaHeat's on defense? That's kind of the question we had about Airplane. So in the first half, neither team could really pull ahead by more than 1 round. Like, it was very back and forth, very close. RokaHeat's biggest, mistake was allowing Delcor and Taz to get picks. If Taz and Delcor got picks, Global won that round because they had the man advantage. They could, work the map. If RokaHeat had used more smokes, had not peeked these easy scope angles that they were peeking, the half could have been like a 7-2. Of course, after that, the Global would have changed their strategies after the first rounds of it not working. But Taz Delcor got so many picks. That's definitely something RokaHeat should try and work on, at least for this map. I don't know if they didn't know the angles or how the other team played, but it happened enough times that they should have learned while they were playing. But that's pretty much how that half went, But yeah, so let's head into the second half. Let's see what I wrote down here. So yeah, Epi and Delcor secured frags in the first 3 rounds. They really shut down all of the RokaHeat takes that they tried to make, or the plays they tried to make. Which was just really heartbreaking for RokaHeat, as they had some really nice executions going on there, but just the skill, the fragging power wasn't really there. The shots weren't connecting, and you can have the best executions, but they just weren't working. And then we had, so after being down 3-0, RokaHeat, they changed the style completely, went back to being aggressive like they were being on Hammerblow, not giving Global any time to rotate or to be coordinated, just very slick, fast executions, not going for those picks, not going for that information. And in the first round that they actually tried this, they actually rested on the cause, the clutch 1-on-2. And luckily he did, because if he didn't, I think they would have lost the remaining rounds. But second round, after they won this, they were down 3-4. And then a massive misplay came up from Taz. Like, Taz missed like 4 shots, missed like a whole bunch of pistol shots on like 2 players that were 1 hit. And yeah, I don't know. So that was the 5th round. I don't know how that happened there from Taz, but just kind of allowed RokaHeat to come back into the half. 6th round, RokaHeat, just completely overwhelmed. 2-site as usual, same strat, worked 3 rounds in a row. And then at a certain point, they were, I think it was 5. Was it 5-3? I think it was 5-3, where they were 2 or 1 rounds. Yeah, this is where they were 2 or 1 rounds away from actually knocking Global out. 2 rounds to knock Global out and to win 3-1. It was their time to shine. This is when they could have done it. In my pre-analysis for this, I said for like a certain map order and a certain amount of maps that RokaHeat could win. They played all those maps first 4 maps. So their options were there, but they weren't able to take it. RokaHeat, let's see. So they tried to switch it up. So they went like aggressive 3 rounds in a row. They were like, okay, we're going to try to change something differently. We only really have like 1 round to spare here, and it'll be a tie or something to that effect. So let's just change it up. And they decided to go mid, and they pushed mid, and Global, they're completely prepared for it, and they just eliminated everyone on RokaHeat. So then that was just heartbreaking. And then in the final round, Epi just pushed, he pushed up and flanked behind them. RokaHeat, they were playing a little too afraid. The nerves were biting into them. Epi, he realized that. He pushed up down through mid. He killed 2 players. He died himself. But, it completely disrupted all of RokaHeat, their entire plan. And then they just lost that round. And then, like, pushing mid like that when there's, like, a player on the left, a player in blue room, a player in the window, that's pretty much like no man's land, and you'll just get trashed and tarnished down there. But yeah, so Global did win that airplane, and then it was all tied up 2-2, and then we headed into this dual site map. And dual site was the map where we said, Global, they have some issues. This is kind of like a mini X Factor map, like Fox Honey, just not as big. Global, they could play defense, but their offense, that was questionable. So RokaHeat, they took offense, Global took defense. Luckily for Global, they took defense. I have no idea how this would have turned out if they took offense first. But a final score of 6-3 for Global in that first half, right? Now, why? You ask yourselves, why was it such a big win? I don't think it's because Global had a really good defense. Their defense was like okay, it was decent, it was standard, but it wasn't fantabulous or fantastic or whatever. So Cactus was 1-9. Cable was 3-9, and then you had Wicked, who was 12-7. So I said Wicked had the top frag, and then I said Cactus had. You can go watch it. I even said this. Cactus had to have, if he didn't get kills, he had to at least have impact. He did neither of those. I said he had to at least be consistent, like Nakaz is consistent every game. He didn't do that either. Cable, he didn't do that on this map. He did it on a few maps. Cactus more so didn't do it on most of the maps. Cable, though, this map was a complete bomb for him. If he had performed better, they could have won, this half. Just regardless of Cactus being 1-9, if Cable had been able to just go equal in frags, the half would have been like 6-3 for RokaHeat. That's how much Wicked was actually carrying 12-7 with getting frags. At least initially, before he started getting extra frags, that didn't really mean anything. And then, when you have 2 players like this that can't get frags, can't have impact, how are you supposed to execute strats? How are you supposed to take sites? How are you supposed to gather information? You go gather information, you just die. You go take a site, your 2 entry players, they just die. Like, you're in a 3-on-4, but you're the only player positive. The other 2 aren't doing so hot, and they just die, and then you're left alone in 1-on-3, which happened in 2-site for RokaHeat. So no way for them to win that round. Very core fundamental issue there for RokaHeat. And then we had Epi and Delcor sitting nearly at identical scores of 12-5 or 11-4, as whatever. They were on top of their game. They were shutting everyone down. But I mean, Captors and Cable were just feeding them so many kills. But you know, Epi Delcor did make up for quiet performances in previous maps. And then we had Toolsight. So Toolsight second half, not much to talk about. RokaHeat was already feeling down. They felt down that they were 2 rounds away from, you know, winning. Then they lost it, and then they lost Airplane, and then, well, they lost Airplane itself. Not much to say about the second half. Really, RokaHeat, every round that they won was very close. Easily could have gone to global. Every round global won, it was a landslide. It wasn't even close. You know, global had so much impact in those rounds. But for Captus, Nakaz, and Cable, they were all 2-6. So altogether, you know, Captus and Cable, worst map performance I've ever seen so far in 2016, and I don't think 2 players have played that worse on a single team from September to November or even December. I don't even think the Europeans 2 players played that bad when they were playing in AWC. I could be wrong on that. So even against Asian teams, no one played that bad. Like, this is a new low for these players, and people can say I'm being critical or I'm hating on these players, but like, it's astonishing how bad they actually played on this map. Like, it's not like they just went 4-9 or something. They went 1-9, like 2-9. It's crazy. But yeah, so that was basically Global versus RokaHeat for the semifinals. You know, Global taking that by the skin of their teeth. It's something I'll talk about in the grand final preview show that I'll put up later. But yeah, it's scary how close all these games actually were. You know, we're not seeing Global 8-1 or 8-1ing or 7-2ing teams like they were in the group stage, and not having complete like 7-0, 7-1s like they were having last year against RokaHeat or the players that FirePizza were actually on. So the gap has closed, or Global is like a little bit of practice, or they're still getting used to the roster changes. But yeah, if whenever Kimba top frags, they're gonna win. When Kimba doesn't, they're gonna lose, or they're gonna have a tough time. Sorry, not that's gonna lose. They'll have a tough time, and you know the other 4 players are gonna actually have to, like, you know, turn their monitors on or something. But RokaHeat, great job from them. Great run in the winter season. If I think they have the same. Okay, half the time they have the same style as Celsia, but they have more gun skill and they don't rely on their teamwork as much. The other half of the time they play aggressively as a team, which is something no other team actually does right now, is be aggressive and play as a team all at once. Celsia, they don't do that. Their style is, you could say it's similar, but it's completely different, has different purposes for it. But yeah, RokaHeat, if, you know, in another month, they could definitely be not taking Global and Celsia. I think Celsia versus RokaHeat, sadly we didn't get to see this game played, but RokaHeat could definitely, you know, 3-1 Celsia. It wouldn't be out of my mind here. But Global basically just having the map variety win here, and that's why they went. So let's talk about the second game here. Celsia versus FirePizza. So the way I predicted the maps to go didn't go that way at all. I don't think. Yeah, they didn't. So I'm not going to talk about any generic things here first. I'll talk about those at the end. So let's look at this. So Airplane, first half, FirePizza was on offense, Celsia of course on defense. FirePizza handled site executions well. That's why I noticed they would get into the site, and then most teams, like, they get into a site, they plant the bomb, or they try to go for immediate kills to secure the bomb site. FirePizza, before they planted this bomb, before they went to commit on kills, they were like, okay, we know there's a guy behind here, we know there's another guy behind here, let's wait half a second to see how they move around, if anyone else throws nades, so we can get a little bit more information, and then they would plant, then they would commit for those kills. And that was actually really crucial. I don't know if that's because they knew Celsia would play slow on the retake, so they had time for that, or if that's just their style of play. Curious to see how that would work against Global, who would just immediately go straight in, or they'd have like none of their players coordinated. So round 1 of this half is a really good example. Go rewatch that if you want to like learn how FirePizza handles site retakes, or I mean executions. Celsia round wins were, you know, like standard defensive angles, you know, going in their favor, since defense is just more favored. And then Cold Owner, of course, just coming out of nowhere, getting 3Ks and 2Ks. So with that combination, having the easier defensive side and just having one guy stepping up, that really means that the offensive side needs to have two guys stepping up, or their style needs to actually contain a player that starts to perform really well. And I don't think any team in AVA really knows how to contain a player that's performing really well. They just go for like the direct dry peaks or one-on-one engagements. They don't try to outplay them or work around that player. So that's something that we can't really fault FirePizza for. But again, this is an issue that they had that costed them a lot of rounds. FirePizza struggled a lot due to Mashik being 1-4. I mean, this guy, he plays crazy. He can have a bad game. He can have a bad game because his team needs to actually be able to carry without him. Can't make a team just around one player, trying to do well. So yeah, the rounds, actually, Mashik was like 1-5 or something, and then he actually stepped up and went 5-5 or 6-5 or something. But it was too late. It's just like how Epi tried to perform on Hammer Blow. It was a little too late. They lost 5-4.5, but they kept it close on offense. Was pretty good. So basically, in summary, let me just read this. Sorry, the rounds either went to FirePizza because they got into the sites and won, or Celsia got very early round picks, or shut down with a 2K on FirePizza. So that's kind of how it went. Just typical airplane. Neither team really had crazy stretch like pushing down mid. Like Epi did on India when he was on defense. Nothing like that. So then the second half. Sorry about that. In the second half, we had typical Celsia EU. It's if you want to look at how Celsia plays offense and what happens when they play that offense correctly and the other team doesn't prevent them from playing offense that way, watch the second half of Airplane, because this is what happens. Typical Celsia offense, distractions, basically deception and gathering information, and then at the right time when they're like, okay, we probably just made two guys rotate over here and we saw one guy nade at mid. Probably this site on this side of the map has one guy only, and Celsia pushes immediately when they have that type of information. Other teams, they still wait like 30 seconds. So Celsia, that's where they're different. That's their style. And it doesn't help that Dalaprane went 13-2 in just 7 rounds. This guy with his M4 went absolutely brutal. Long range shots, I guess using the accuracy with the M4, because with the AK-47, if you do spray like 5, 6, 7 shots, your accuracy does kind of increase a little bit. M4 stays very accurate. Does leave you open to scopes, but RokaHeat is only using Wicked. Wait, not RokaHeat. FirePizza was really only using Mashik and Zeke, and Mashik wasn't really landing those crucial shots. Yeah, so FirePizza, they only managed to get 2 rounds, and guess what? Those 2 rounds they won. Dalaprane only had 2 deaths as well, so it's not a coincidence there. Dalaprane was just a force of nature in this half. He pretty much won it for them with a minor in the Celsia playstyle. Alright, so let's look at dual site now. FirePizza, they took offense this time. Celsia, of course, on defense. So, Celsia should have been able to win the 7-2 if they were, staying on top of their game, staying prepared, having performance that we saw previously on dual site against previous teams. However, they didn't. They won this only 5-4, and they barely just won it because Timmy stepped up after playing terribly in the first half. Like for the first few rounds, he just was awful. But then he stepped up and won the final round to win 5-4. So yeah, even though they won 5-4, another if they played a double of rounds here, it probably would have gone into the favor of FirePizza. Pedo was nowhere to be found. 3 players themselves were negative, so I think both teams were just playing really poor. It was just mistake from both teams in both rounds. I don't know how teams can't play dual site anymore these days. I guess they play India or Airplane too much. I don't know, but it just looked like both teams were unprepared for this. Zach Infamous, they tried to carry, but you can't carry your teammates, especially when Mankey's also trying to kill you as well, and he's doing a really well job over there. So the first half was absolutely murky. The second half went exactly as planned as I predicted. Celsia's offense is just abysmal. Every player on Celsia remained negative, like negative. I'm counting kills and deaths, not their score. So they were all negative, and it was 6-1, where they lost this half. I don't even know how that happens. Like you win 5-4, and then you lose 6-1. Like we saw this against Global where they got 7-0'd. We saw it now. Celsia, and this is something we actually see throughout the rest of the maps, that Celsia has a really weak offense. Celsia used to have a really strong offense. Like their hammer blow offense used to be really good. Dual sight used to be really good. Like Black Saint used to be amazing. I don't know where all this stuff went. But yeah, Celsia, no direction, no coordination. Like it's just like they didn't prepare for this map, no prep work. Zeke and Mashik just, or Zek, sorry, and Mashik just shut down Celsius playstyle completely. I don't know what happened there. Not like I can't say too much analysis about this because of how one-sided it was. Like, great job to FirePizza, and that was pretty much the second map, and that went directly to FirePizza there. So then we go to Hammer Blow, and Celsius, of course, is on offense. My prediction was like, oh well, Celsius is going to be able to perform well on offense, but their offense didn't work out. Like they tried to play slow and get information, but it didn't work out because infamous detail. Both the PMs were preventing map control going to Celsius' hands, and they just kept the pressure on Celsia, and Celsia just felt a little agitated, didn't feel like in the comfort zone because of these point mans, and it prevented Celsia from getting any information. Like Celsia, like round 7, all right. So I think it was round 7. Dalprane, he pushed out through double doors and got shut down immediately. Okay, he was trying to get information, or he was just trying to be cheeky and do something. But he pushed out on his own. First of all, that's a huge mistake. No backup, had no one in warehouse. He was all on his own, and then he died immediately. And that's just a really good example of what I'm talking about there. So when Celsia wasn't winning, oh, sorry, too far ahead. RokaHeat had some openings. So if you go back and watch the VOD, RokaHeat, they left their spawn open a lot. So if Celsia had gone through that alleyway with either a good smoke, and they had, distracted somehow at the one site, distracted in the warehouse with one player, it would have forced, that spawn side to be open a little bit more. They never did a strat like that. They never worked forklift and double doors together. It was always just double doors or just forklift. Their warehouse pushes, they pushed 3 players in warehouse. They weren't covering all the different angles. So Celsia could have been able to, get these picks if they had a scope, watching one side, rifles pushing the other. Could have worked that, but they didn't capitalize on that after they found out how they played in warehouse or any of this. So I don't know, Celsia weren't gathering the information. I don't know what was happening with the communication on that team, but they should have been able to do something more. And of course, I say that all of their KDRs looked really bad, but that's just the style of Celsia play. If they're not even when they're close, they don't have really crazy KDRs. Like 7-5 or 8-6 would be if they were winning close, or even if they were winning by a large margin as well. But their KDRs did look pretty bad in this map, and I think there's a threshold where if you go beyond that threshold, you do need to start working on your individual skill a little bit. And I think that's where Celsia is going to have a lot of trouble against Global, but we'll save that for the Grand Final preview show. I'm going to try to wrap this up within 10 minutes, guys. Sorry if I go quickly here. I don't want to make this too long. Hammer Blow second half, they played defense as expected. I did say Celsia would play defense really well. Their style, first of all, is great for defense. Hammer Blow is a good defensive map, and just their style gels well with the defense, the way the defense style of Hammer Blow plays. So it wasn't totally unexpected for Celsia just to, just annihilate on this map. They could have won, 7-2, but they didn't. And of course it went to a tiebreaker as well. So Celsia, they struggled. It was like 3-2 for FirePizza on the offensive side, and then it was 4-1 for Celsia on the defensive side. So really, Celsia's defense really saving their bacon, their offense really undermining all of their efforts. Um, I don't know, Celsia, if they had just played better on offense, they would have completely trounced FirePizza. FirePizza would never have won a map. So that's something to keep in mind. Celsia's offense was that bad, it allowed FirePizza to take them to a fifth map. And we'll talk about that in the next video. Alright, so of course we went to India. I don't know why India wasn't banned out by Celsia. It's their worst map. It's always been their worst map, even going back to the first half of 2015. So of course Celsia's on offense now. They show how weak they are on offense. Once again, terrible performance on offense. I don't know if it's because they're just bad on offense or if it was the dual scope pressure. I'm leaning like 70% bad on offense, not prepared for it. Don't know how to work picks, work the map on offense when you only have one scope. I don't know. Airplane is an exception. Actually, every time Celsia did good on offense, one player was going crazy. So that was Dolprane, of course, on Airplane. Yeah, so I don't know if it's Celsia's style against dual scopes. Maybe like 30-40%, maybe that. The rest of the percent, just Celsia wasn't prepared for offense. And then we had Pettaways, who had a massive performance as well. Like, I don't know what his score was, like 17-4 or 14-4 or something. And from how I watched this, it was Celsius was so concerned about the scopes, and the scopes had so much, map. Like, they were so big. The scopes were so big on the map that Celsius was focusing on those scopes so much. Pettaways had all these opportunities. Well, actually, the rifles had a lot of opportunities, but Pettaways took them the most. And yeah, like he realized like how, I don't know if this was intentionally or if it just kind of it came to him, right? These scopes on his team are taking up all the attention of the rifles, and Pettaways, he just popped out and got all these frags. He clutched when he needed to. He got all these defensive kills. Great job from him. Pettaways, I think you might have heard me when I said that he needed to have massive rounds, throughout every round, instead of just having bursty rounds. And it's crazy that he can step up like that. Pettaways, if he like played more, practiced more, he would be like one of the top rifles in the game. It's just there's been like commitment issues from him and stuff like that. Just diabolical performance from him. Yeah, he did so well that even if someone else in FirePizza was actually doing a really good job, it was hard to tell. And then so yeah, so 9 rounds, he got 17 kills, just nearly a 2.0 KDR against Celsia. So India, second half, Celsia did come back to win 6 rounds, but FirePizza, they were just doing crazy out of this world strats. They were trying to be super aggressive. So they only had to win like 2 rounds or trying to win 1 round or something. So it's not surprising that's how they tried to play it. Really can't say much that Celsia had a strong NRF defense because FirePizza wasn't really challenging them for it. There's no pressure, there's no intensity for them. And as soon as it mattered for FirePizza to win a round, they did. So, moral story there, FirePizza, not much to take away from the second half. You'd be fooled to try and take any analysis from this, in my opinion. Yeah, not much. I don't want to go into too much detail. I could say it was like Detail Infamous Machine being very liberal in their peaks and in pushes and their engagements, but that's kind of implied. So yeah, I just India went to FirePizza. It's all tied up 2-2, just like it was against Global versus RokaHeat. It's actually surprised me a lot, but I'll talk more about this in the grand final preview video. How close the games actually were between these 4 teams, and I think it's something I definitely have to discuss heading into the next video. So Black Sand here. First half, Celsia of course on offense. Sorry about that. Alright, so moral of the story on this half, when Cold and Sib, whenever they could frag, Celsia was very likely to win the round. Whenever they didn't, They're very likely to lose the round. FirePizza didn't contest generator at all. It enabled Celsia to work generator, freezer, warehouse, and of course mid a little bit. And Celsia's playstyle, they want map control, they want map information, and they got all the map information they wanted. The only place they didn't know where people were playing was defense spawn, 2 site, and 1 site, which really don't matter if you have warehouse control, mid control, and freezer and generator. So, FirePizza, if they had been a little bit more aggressive, maintaining freezer control, like alternating between freezer and generator control, would have been more ideal. I think that would have won them a few more rounds, but that's really hard for them to actually like predict unless they've studied Celsia and Blackstone before. Blackstone hasn't really been played a lot, so can't fault them on that. Would have been great if they had a caller who could call that, but whatever. Yeah, way too much map control for Celsia. Misplays from FirePizza lost them rounds. Zeke's multiple failures in the second round in his one-on-one versus Cold. Oh, that was so bad. I mean, Zeke, or Zach, whatever his name was, missed a whole bunch of shots with his scope, I think at the end. No, yeah, at the beginning. And then he thought that Cold was very low HP, so he took out his pistol. However, before he was anywhere near Cold, he ran over a rifle, and he kind of stopped and like, should I take out this rifle or should I just keep my pistol? Now, and the problem here is that he stayed with his pistol, which means he thought he was low HP. So why use a pistol when you can use a rifle? Only reason I could see is if someone on his team said, "Don't pick up that gun; it has 2 bullets." But I don't think that happened. I don't know why he didn't pick up this rifle. If he did, he would have actually taken out Cold, because he hit Cold for 80 HP with a pistol from full HP, and actually got him very low. It was 1 pistol shot away from dying. If it was a rifle, Cold would have died, because Cold was more concerned about outplaying, playing for the objective than actually going for the kill. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. However, when FirePizza did win rounds, they were mainly attributed to Zeke's or Zach's performance. He had a really crazy impact. So, of course, he had that one massive misplay, but he was doing a crazy, crazy job on the rest of this half here for his team. His team kind of let him down. If he had carried his team slightly more, it could have been a very different half. But that half was 5-4 anyways. And then we had Black Scent coming here into the second half. FirePizza, of course, being on offense, Celsia being on defense. FirePizza went crazy aggressive at 2. Worked well the first 4 rounds, but felt Celsia, they started shutting it down by round 5, kind of getting used to it. And this is where we needed to see Celsia, just start winning a little bit more. However, this was FirePizza who, if they hadn't stopped losing rounds here, they would have just knocked out Celsia. They were like 2 rounds away from knocking Celsia out. They were at 4 rounds or something to that effect. So they would win 2 rounds, and it wouldn't be a tie. It would just be a straight up win, and mathematically impossible for Celsia to win. 2 rounds. So you're FirePizza. You're like the 4th best team in the game. You're about to beat out Celsia, who is top 2 team, maybe top 1. This is where the pressure really started to mount for FirePizza. However, each round was very close, and it came down to minor misplays, and it went to Celsia every single time. I think it went 5-2, and then it was 5-3, and that's how it went to Celsia every single time. It's crazy how Celsia was down so much and then brought it back like this. It's crazy that they were put into this position and then were able to actually bring it back from this. So, but of course Celsia was on defense. Their defense was getting wrecked early on, and then it got very scary. And then the heartbreaking stuff here is that in the final round, Infamous. So for FirePizza, he had a great spot on one side. If he had moved out of the spot, realized that he was in a scope pickable spot, or he did something more with that one site, or FirePizza worked with that to work through mid or onto one site, very easily could have won that round. The spot he was in was between the borders and the middle barrier on that one site. Very strong position for an offensive person to be in. But he got taken out. He got, I think it was Zek or something, or Mashik that took him down. No, no, it was a rifle, I think. So this made it a 3-on-4 for FirePizza. Uh, oh, I forgot about the most important round here. I skipped around, guys. Sorry. Uh, but anyways, Celsia did close it out with Timmy starting the spree. So it was like 3-on-4, and then made it 4-on-2, and then it was over. But the round I'm talking about was the seventh round. Peta was in a 1-on-1 with Dolaprane. They win this round. They win. They don't. Wait a minute. Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, so Peta lost a round to Dolaprane here. Um, it was really crucial because Petaways, if he, I think he played in the worst way possible to play from backdoor, um, as you could have, for where the bomb was planted, and for hearing Dolaprane jump down through vent and Dolaprane not actively pushing him. With all that considered, the way Peta played that wasn't as great as it could have been. And if he had done like any number of things differently, he probably would have won that 1-on-1. Um, but he played it right into the hands of Dolaprane. Like Dolaprane didn't even do anything. He just sat there and watched the door. So that's what I'm kind of talking about. Like there's so much more Petaways could have done. It wasn't that Dolaprane just outplayed him. Peta like outplayed himself a little bit. But yeah. So anyways, overall the half was 5-4. It was tied 9-9. The match was rescheduled for a tiebreaker. However, FirePizza couldn't make it, so they forfeited, and of course Celsia moved to the grand finals. So, very close game. I think either team could have been in the grand finals. It's hard to say if Celsia deserves to be in the grand finals. It's hard to say if FirePizza even would have deserved to spot in the grand finals with how they played. Same could be said about Global and RokaHeat though. So that's it for the semifinals preview. I will have another video that'll be posted at the same time for the grand finals analysis or pre-analysis or pre-analysis or whatever it's called, or analysis and predictions. I think I'll go with that. So that's coming up next, guys. Check it out. Go support us on social media. Like us on YouTube or subscribe to us on YouTube for more content like this. Follow us on Twitch. Follow us on Twitter for stats and updates. Facebook as well for all of our articles and content. The more you support us, the more we can do, and the more people want to play in ESL and take part in all the stuff that we do. So thanks to you guys again, and we'll be back soon.